everybody. I'm Ellen Pallavi, the co-chair of the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition. I'm glad to see you all here tonight. Over the past months, your RIC directors have been really busy. We've been meeting with officials such as Councilmember Jessica Lappin, Borough President Scott Stringer. We've been talking with experts in zoning, security, and engineering. We've been speaking at 11 community board meetings, including speaking at Community Board 1 in Astoria. We've been studying Cornell's 800-page draft environmental impact report, along with many of you who agreed to do some of the pages and give us your recommendations from it. And recently, urging Community Board 8 to amend the approval of the Cornell project with restrictions suggested by RIC. On your seat, there's a list of all the meetings that we've been having. Of course, we meet often with the Cornell team and engage with them on every item mentioned in our original list of concerns, which we call the term sheet. Remember the term sheet? If you recall, the first half deals with infrastructure issues such as trucking, pollution, and safety. These issues are negotiated by Jessica Lappin with RIAC and with others. The second half of the term sheet deals with issues such as education and assistance to the disabled. These are negotiated by us, RIC. Some of our requests were rejected and await our response. Some were verbally accepted. All are moving parts in a negotiation based totally on your ideas, objections, and concerns. You should know that although we're pleased with Cornell's verbal agreements and its willingness to explore ideas, as of now there have been no commitments in writing, no assurances that promises will be kept. You should also be aware that Cornell has said no to some major concerns. Specifically, Cornell has declined our request for financial assistance to Roosevelt Island, either for the maintenance of what will be our overburdened community services, or as a contribution to our public purpose fund. We expect questions from you. Please hold your questions until the presentation is over. Now I'll turn the meeting over to Larry Parnas. He's a city government insider and a Community Board 8 member who worked with me to draft a really fabulous resolution from Community Board 8. And he's going to explain the ULURP process and how we should prepare to meet the City Planning Commission. Larry?
Actually, I spent 39 years at the Department of City Planning, so an insider. The ULURP process is a process that's mandatory for actions that require discretionary approvals in the city. Most of the stuff that happens on Roosevelt Island, because it's subject to the land that's under the control of RIAC, doesn't go through that process. But fortunately, since the overwhelmingly greatest part of the Cornell site is not under the master lease, it's subject to the Uniform Land Use Review procedure. It involves the Community Board, and as Ellen pointed out, Community Board 8 has voted on the application on December 19th. The board voted in favor of the application, but included a very long list of conditions, and those conditions were basically the conditions that our RIC proposed, and we incorporated into, the board incorporated into our resolution. The Community Board's resolution and recommendations are advisory, but since 1976, when ULURP went into effect, the role of the community boards, even though they're advisory, is an important first step in the process, and community board recommendations carry weight with the decision makers. Sometimes not as much as board members would hope, but they do carry weight. The community board's recommendation was made. It was forwarded to the City Planning Commission and the Borough President. The Borough President has until the 23rd, which is Thursday, to submit a recommendation to the City Planning Commission and to the City Council. Also, the Borough President's recommendation, since he's not an ultimate decision maker, is advisory, but we all know that the Borough President carries a lot of political clout, so his recommendation will get listened to. The step after that is the City Planning Commission. The City Planning Commission has until March 25th to hold a public hearing and submit its recommendation to the City Council. The Commission can approve, disapprove, or disapprove with modifications to the application, to the applications that are before it. The City Planning Commission's public hearing will be on February 6th, which is a Wednesday, and we can go into more details of that public hearing and how that will take place a little bit later. On Monday, the 4th of February, at 1 o'clock, the Commission has what is called a review session, where they discuss, among other things, items that are coming back for public hearing. That's an open public meeting. There's no public testimony, but the public can and do attend that meeting. It gives you some sense about some of the issues the Commission may have prior to the public hearing. The Commission will have to vote. The actual deadline is March 25th, but because of their schedule of meetings, the last day they can actually vote is March 20th. They will then forward their recommendation to the City Council, and they will have 60 days from the time they receive the Commission's recommendation. There's one mistake on this chart here. The Council will hold a public hearing on this. It's probably will not be a hearing at the full council, but at one of the subcommittees of the Land Use Committee. That's will be held sometime after they receive the recommendation, and then the full council will have to vote on it, and they also have the ability to approve, to disapprove, or adopt it with conditions. After that, though not likely to occur, the mayor can veto the vote of the council, and the council has the ability to override the veto. But the mayor has really rarely vetoed council recommendations. Basically, when councils have disapproved an action of the mayor has strongly supported. If you recall, the waste transfer station programs, some of those sites were disapproved at the council, and the mayor vetoed that disapproval, and then the council overrode the veto of the mayor on some of those sites. So I'll save the details of the public hearing until later on, and you can move on with yours.
Okay, I'm Linda Heimer, board member, and I'm going to talk to you, welcome also. I'm going to talk to you about what we call the hard issues. In that term sheet, if you were at the last meeting, we handed out a sheet telling you of everything that the 35 organizations that we represent have asked for. The hard items are things like infrastructure, transportation, air pollution, that kind of thing. The softer items, which are community issues, Christine is going to address. As Ellen mentioned, we've had many meetings. Actually, there have been over 40 meetings in the last 4 months, even through the holidays, believe it or not. And the list you have is an abbreviated list of the meetings. And we've met with Cornell many times. And then we've had many of our own meetings that, in addition to the 40 meetings. So we've been working hard at it. However, I have to say that a lot of these hard issues are still open. What I'm going to do is just read quickly through each one, and keep in mind what your questions may be at the end, but also keep in mind if you're going to write, we'll talk about later what you can do to help. You're going to write what questions you may have and what you might want to do to encourage the Planning Commission to help us with some of these issues. So again, it's just abbreviated, but we have a lot more information on each one of these. Okay, so quickly, use of barges. The last meeting with Cornell, which was last Tuesday, we were told that they think barging might actually work. We've been working on that harder than anything else. And we're looking into two types of water barging to accommodate, one to serve the demolition phase, the other for the construction phase. Cornell is now in talks with the City Department of Environmental Conservation, which agreed to change the system of permit applications for Cornell as a special case.
Must be state.
What?
Must be state environmental
State?
conservation.
Really?
Yeah.
Great, thanks. Okay, good. All right. Truck traffic on Main Street. Cornell has not committed to limiting heavy traffic through Main Street until they know that the barging is feasible. Barging will not eliminate, but will reduce the number of trucks, obviously. They're also considering a cement on-site mixing facility. They're concerned about runoff. They brought it up at the DEC meeting. There's more research to do. Rick argues that mixing on-site would eliminate very heavy cement trucks, which create the worst impact on our helix and streets and so forth. So we hope that they will do that. 3, the helix. Cornell will not reinforce the helix. They say it's a REAC responsibility, but the Borough President's Office, who we met with, wants the city to take charge of that. They think that the Roosevelt Island Bridge, which is a city structure leading into the helix, should all be part of the city responsibility. So we'll see what happens with that. That's kind of hopeful. Limit construction on traffic noise. They want to do construction and demolition from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and also on weekends if there's snow or other conditions. We've been fighting for 9 to 5 and no weekends, because you have to remember this is over a 25, 30-year period, so we need some respite. And I just want to say one thing about that, because this is a special interest of mine. The DEIS kind of minimizes most figures. This one they admit to. They admit there's going to be noise. So we really want to work on that one. The Borough President's Office said it's been done before, but usually not 9 a.m., it's 8 p.m., but they're going to try and negotiate that for us. Okay, as far as security goes, given the sensitive nature of Cornell Technion, we need more security. Cornell will provide security for their own campus, and they met with Homeland Security to review the issue. The Borough President is aware of this and discussed it with Rick. We talked about the yeshiva model that provides 4 staffed security booths on each corner of their campus. Rick met with public safety, and RIAC is going to strategize with public safety and meet with the Borough President's Office on that issue. Emergency evacuation and shelter. Cornell and the Borough President mentioned that FEMA will be rezoning all of New York City. OEM will brief Roosevelt Island residents on new procedures in a month or 2. CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, and Rick will host that presentation. They're probably going to make us a Zone A, where we're probably going to have to evacuate.
Linda, there's just one note that I thought
Yeah,
interesting.
sure.
That OEM's concerned that Cornell won't be the site.
I think that comes a little later.
Okay.
I think. But okay, we'll talk about it now. Yeah, we were hoping that Cornell would be an evacuation site, at least for people who are dependent on oxygen, disabled, that kind of thing, because they're the highest elevation on the island. The island starts low in the middle and gets higher as you go south, and then they're going to raise their site even more. But OEM is concerned that they're not equipped to be a shelter, so we'll see. They're still working on that. Air pollution. Rick requested air monitoring devices throughout the island through this entire process on Eastern Manhattan and in Queens. Cornell says it's exploring only Roosevelt Island at limited times during the process. Rick engineers suggested a dust shield. Cornell says the site will be contained. It believes Goldwater contains asbestos. There will be an environmentalist on site, and if asbestos is at a high level, they will add air quality monitoring during abatement, which includes a person and air monitoring machines. Carcinogenic ash and oil. Cornell did not find ash, but said that it's in the process of doing more exploration, and there would be a stop work enforced by the Department of Environmental Conservation if they do find it. The same thing is with oil. hazardous materials must be encapsulated. Cornell says that they cannot guarantee that toxic materials would not traverse Main Street in unprotected trucks. But the city agencies will be watching it, and the community can add its own watchdog. The borough president assured us that they will push for construction oversight and 24-hour access to construction personnel. So that's very critical. Okay. Preservation of mature trees. Cornell agrees to save as many trees as possible, especially close to the present Goldwater building. They acknowledge that raising the site in the center of the campus will destroy trees, but most of the great trees are on the southern end of the site where the construction will not occur. All right, now, all the rest, I believe, are transportation. Subway, tram, red bus. Cornell does agree now, we've worked on them on this, to subsidize impacts on the red bus. Regarding the F train, the MTA has jurisdiction, and borough president confirms that MTA will not accept money from developers except to widen staircases. In the DEIS, the draft environmental impact statement, Cornell found no impact on the tram, and Rick discussed this and other no impact issues with the borough president because we feel there will be an impact. Access to South Point Park, Cornell agrees, although there'll be some periods of redirection during construction, that we will have full access to the park, either in one direction or another. They'll, just close off one avenue but keep one open. So during the whole process, there will be access to the park. Indoor park, bike parking and security for visitors. Cornell will provide outdoor sheltered bike parking. These are all things that we've asked for, obviously.
The next one is dock, not ferry.
I'm sorry, what?
The next, dock.
Dock. Yeah,
Correction.
okay. Dock installation. Jessica Lappin has put up $1 million and Carolyn Maloney has put up $500,000, but the city needs financial commitments for several years. Cornell agrees to pay for an operational cost of the ferry. Jessica Lappin is pushing for ferry service to the island and included Roosevelt Island specifically in the city's request for proposal now out to the developers. Cornell will not pay for installation of a dock, but will assist with ongoing expenses along with other island entities. At Rick's request, the borough president will ask budget department if there is city capital for a ferry dock. Also, the location of the dock has to be determined. Elevator to the Queensboro Bridge. Cornell actually now likes this idea, and as does the borough president and Jessica Lappin. Jessica has twice asked for it and was rejected by the Department of Transportation due to cost, design, maintenance, and security. Cornell has agreed to do a feasibility study. The borough president is also interested in pursuing it. Parking. This is a hot issue. Philosophically, Cornell believes that limited parking will discourage car use, but Rick believes more cars will come and wants Cornell to expand the motorgate parking garage. The borough president suggests that we split the issue. Cornell to build parking accommodations for the first stage of construction, and then to review the results of car volume to resolve in the second phase. Scott Stringer's office is a big supporter of public transportation and will definitely look into this issue. Did I mention cement?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I think that's it, and now Christina will talk about the soft issues.
Yeah, and they're actually not necessarily soft issues in the sense that they're very important to us, but ULIP only covers the infrastructure, quality of life. So the other issues fall into a category of community wants and needs that are more organizationally based. So I'm just going to run through it. Questions, of course, I expect, and they'll come at the end. There'll be a question and answer period. So I'm just going to go through the chunks of division that we had in the term sheet. We started with facilities, and our request was that we have facility space, dedicated space to have evenings on the Cornell campus. Ideally for more than one group at a time. And Cornell has said yes, they will provide us with space. They're not going to dedicate a space to us that is just for Roosevelt Island meetings, but they will make sure there is a space that Roosevelt Island organizations can utilize. So that's a yes. The next area is we requested incorporate the accessibility of features on campus, such as the looping system. That's an audio system where people who are hard of hearing can hear better. It's for the hearing impaired and also disabled access. It's called universal design. They said yes, and I think part of that is law now. Reduced rates for hotel space and island residents, for island residents when accommodations are available. Yes, they have said they will investigate the feasibility of us being able to have reduced hotels. So that's kind of a yes, kind of. Yes, follow-up, right? At the hotel. I'm sorry? It may be a separate, it probably is a separate vendor running the hotel, so, that's how that goes. Use of Cornell's auditorium, theater space for Roosevelt Island organizations when available, yes to that. Here comes some no's, and I'm just gonna preface it with, questions will be at the end. Can you think? The no's need our response, and the no's are where we have more work to do. Storage, or drop them, whatever we want. Storage facilities for Roosevelt Island organizations, they're saying no to that at this moment. Tennis courts built on top of the new campus buildings for Cornell and residents to use to alleviate the shortage of courts and space on the island with dedicated time for children's programming. The response to that is no. At the Borough President's Office, we did bring up the fact that our recreational facilities will be taxed due to population increase with Cornell, and they heard us loud and clear. We had a great 2-hour meeting with the Borough President, so we went over all of these issues and where they stand. Another section is public purpose funds. Ellen has already mentioned exactly where they stand at the moment for that. Education. We asked that Cornell assign a scientific extension person to work on outreach programs with the community. Yes, but maybe it'll be a Cornell Cornell cooperative extension person. There's Cornell proper and then Cornell cooperative extension. They're talking with Don Tobias, who runs that in New York, about ideas. We also asked for a continuation of the dialogue with PSIS 217 to implement Roosevelt Island pilot programs, science, technology, engineering, math, and open to all city middle school students. Yes, we are in dialogue about that, and in general, I'll have you know we met with the school principal and Cornell. That was the first time since September, and you should understand that our school on Roosevelt Island has been chosen of one of 4 schools that Cornell will focus on. There's one in Harlem, there's 2 in Queens, and they're just ramping up with their faculty, and they'll find out how they can help the school. So this is ongoing dialogue. Provision of outdoor space on Cornell campus for a model environmental learning center to house existing program that teaches children about science and the origin of food. Cornell has agreed to work with the community to program outdoor space for children, and that's the outdoor learning space. We also have conveyed that to the Borough President's Office, and what they suggest is in the 2.5 acres of open space that Cornell will be designing, they will make a community group, and we can work together as a community to have some input on the design and decide what might be beneficial to the community. Provision of computers and help with computer training for members of Senior Center, that was a yes. Creation of mentoring program for the island's population of post-high school young adults to include GED test preparation. They agreed to create a mentoring program for the island's population of post-high school adults. We need to get back to them on the GED test part of it. This is an ongoing conversation. Creation of shadowing program for our island middle school students to accompany scientists and observe academic laboratory process. That was a yes, yet to be defined how, but yes. Create an on-site laboratory in which Cornell New York Tech technology students can research ways to enhance the lives of older, frail and disabled folks, and that is what they have responded. Cornell has said we will create an environment which Cornell New York Tech students can research ways that technology can be used to enhance the lives of older people. So that's along with their mission. They're interested in that. Another thing we asked for is the development of a platform to explore innovative approaches to early childhood. Right now, they want to know a little bit more about that, what that means, how that differs from the outdoor learning space, and they're dedicated mostly to middle school age students. We want them to continue to focus on younger, because we know you get them young, and that's when they take the habits on. I'm going to move now to culture and collaboration, to a few things that we spoke about. We had asked for Cornell to consider providing island organizations and services first priority when they're working with outside organizations. They said, when feasible, yes. So it'll be up to us, I believe, to keep that communication going and let them know what we have to offer so that we are top of mind when they're making decisions. Preserving and displaying Roosevelt Island historic artifacts in a dedicated site, that was a yes, where appropriate and feasible. And we know that Judy Birdie's done some work on preserving the WPA murals within the facility. The next is providing opportunities to announce island news and cultural events. Cornell faculty, students, and staff through electronic community bulletin boards, postings, newsletters. Yes, they're all about that. Also, we were very interested in employment and hearing about Cornell's posting of employment or subcontracting opportunities and cultural opportunities via email, wire, blog, local bulletin boards. That was a yes. Of course, their primary sell to New York is jobs, jobs, jobs. So, of course, they will be very interested in keeping that communication flowing. Engaging with the community's culture, religious events that might include support for international events at sites such as the Korean International Pavilion, support for Island Branch of the New York Public Library, help with installation of island-owned sculpture throughout the campus and the island. This was kind of a broad bucket for additional ways of cooperation. They are stressing they will provide non-monetary support to island community and cultural events. So that needs to be defined a little bit better. Considering the architectural planning and assistance for the future smallpox hospital restoration and reuse as a cultural facility, there was an initial discussion that REOC may need to be involved in that, and also that the visitor, that there might be some plans in the works for that, so we have to continue our conversations with that. Disabled, under the disabled category, donation of air conditioning for the accessible bus that transports disabled throughout the tri-state area. That was a no, and so we are able to do a response if we so wish. Donation of Dragon software, that's when you talk, it types, and computer training for disabled. Cornell will provide computer training for the disabled and investigate the purchase of Dragon software. The next one is partial financial or in-kind support for maintenance and landscaping of FDR Hope Memorial, which honors the disabled. And the Cornell liaison wanted to get with Jim. We told him to talk more to Jim Bates to get more ideas and information about what that, how they could participate. I don't know if we have any more update on that. Okay. Sponsor of a tech hackathon to advance technology education for the disabled. Yes, we asked for one, I think, or we weren't specific. They thought maybe a yearly idea like that would be along their lines. Converting the present, okay, now I'm going to steam plant. Converting the present steam plant to a natural gas cogeneration plant that would provide low-cost energy for the island, including Cornell campus. At the their response is Cornell agreed to play a role in any study that would explore adaptive reuses for the steam plant. When we met with the borough president, we stressed how important this was to the island, and they said that they will include it. When the steam plant has to be decommissioned, they need to figure out a new way to power Kohler. So we asked that specifically in that new thing that they must do, they include figuring out what, the possibilities of cogeneration and other kind of energy, futuristic energy sources for the rest of the island. And the borough president agreed that that was important. The other part of the STEAM plan is to, we talked about an art and a science museum and the ability to display the technologies. And the footprint now of the cogeneration system is small, so it might be possible to have a dual use for this facility. Cornell is agreeing at this moment to play a role in any study that would explore adaptive reuses for the STEAM plan. So we continue to push on that. So sorry about the chunk and going through that quickly. Of course, we're open to your questions. And now I'm going to pass it back to Larry. Our next stop is the... Oh, sure. Do you want to do question and answer first, and then Larry will talk about the next big meeting and how we react? Okay, yeah, well, it's fresh in everyone's mind.
Anybody have any questions?